give it a couple of seconds. I'm sure we'll have a couple of seconds lag.
When you say Nick, I start.
There we go. We're on.
We're live. Then welcome everyone. Thanks for your patience. We're about to start the live tour. My name is Lujan, Oulton. I'm the artistic director of Now Play This. Today is our second online session, and we're continuing to explore the theme of liminality before the launch of the game design labs that will start tomorrow. Today, I'm with Jo Summer, tech lead from Now Play This. She's behind the camera. She will do in the live stream. And I'm with Bart Simon and Angelica Calcagnit from the Milieu Institute at Concordia University. They are part of the blog and the team that came up with the Fun Palace project. We're also together with a group of people coming from different places from around the world, from Spain, Argentina, Sweden, and UK. And the idea is to explore, to do this live tour behind the scenes and to know a bit more about the process and the making of this amazing project. And for that, we have Bart. Please feel free to add comments in the YouTube channel and have fun with us. Bart and Angelica, you start.
Great. All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is pretty exciting for us. My name is Bart Simon. I'm a professor of sociology, in fact, at Concordia University in Montreal. And I'm sort of leading a team that includes Angelica, but at least 4 or 5 others. Stuart Thiel is also here doing technical backup. And we may even be joined later on by a few other people. So it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Fun Palace SMP in Minecraft. I should ask, sorry? Oh.
No, we were celebrating here.
Oh, okay. We're going, yay! I mean, the first thing to say about this is Minecraft. It's not your regular, what we call vanilla Minecraft. So if you've played Minecraft before, I imagine most of you have some familiarity with Minecraft. You're probably familiar with vanilla, or the kind that the version of Minecraft you get when you buy the game. This is modded Minecraft. So you're standing in a world that is composed of a bunch of community-made mods. So mods are add-ons to the game that not only change how the game looks, but how the game functions, created by players, essentially, and created for free. So we work as a team with Java modded Minecraft. Essentially, we use the community's mods and we make mods of our own in the various sorts of projects. So this project is put together by what we call the Minecraft the Technoculture Art and Games Research Center, and our Minecraft Bloc is the research group within it. And we do all sorts of
it's breaking
projects.
a bit for me. Is the rest hearing okay?
Is all okay? Yeah, so we do all sorts of projects with Minecraft. So we teach courses in Minecraft at the university. We have a bunch of different kinds of server projects and mod projects, but this one is our biggest one to date. And it's based around a very famous, what is known as a sort of architectural case study called the Fun Palace. So the Fun Palace is a very famous case from the 1960s. Where a group of avant-garde artists and thinkers, philosophers got together and sort of grouped around an attempt to build this giant structure, which you're about to see. So the Fun Palace is the brainchild of Joan Littlewood, who is a sort of radical theater maker from the 60s, famous for her vaudevillian kind of theater productions in the West End, but also very involved in community and agitprop theatre in the East End of London. And she got together with a celebrated architect by the name of Cedric Price, who you may have heard of, as well as a bunch of other thinkers and philosophers, one of the most important being Gordon Pask, who's one of the founders of British cybernetics from the 60s. So they came together to imagine a kind of huge structure a kind of stadium, theater, theme park, uh, uh, sort of mall, you name it, in which people would decide what would happen there. So it was meant to be a kind of palace for the people to create their own leisure, their own entertainment, to also create their own education. So it was partially a university type of university of the streets, a kind of community center, a kind of structure of all things. And I'll talk more about the particular historical structure as we walk around. But essentially the thing was never built. So what's important to know, if you know anything about architecture, is while it's sort of connected to the history of what we call speculative architecture, so the idea of imagining structures that are never built, in fact, this was way more than speculative architecture. So when we went to the archive and started doing research on this, we found purchase orders for materials and plans for the construction and so on and so forth. So they were really very close to actually breaking ground and starting to build this thing. But for all sorts of reasons, which I could talk about later, it never happened. So the Fun Palace remains this kind of myth, architectural myth. And in fact, the original plans for the Fun Palace were used by Renzo Piano eventually for the Pompidou Center. So the Pompidou Center in Paris, in part, is derived from the original Fun Palace plan. So you'll already have a sense of what it might be. And there's lots of architecture that does get built that sort of riffs or plays off of the ideas of a Fun Palace. So Fun Palace is this kind of myth. And architecture students have to study it, and there's all sorts of models and sketches and plans related to the Fun Palace, but nobody had ever considered doing the Fun Palace in Minecraft. And as Minecraft researchers, we were like, well, these two are a match made in heaven. And so what we did was over the course of basically a full year, we engaged this project. So we started by going to the archive, which luckily the Cedric Price archive, which contains most of the Fun Palace materials, happens to be in Montreal at the Canadian Centre for Architecture. So the team went and spent 3 months in the archive looking at everything we could possibly look at. We read all the literature pertaining to the Fun Palace, and then we started building. So the whole project takes place then after the archive in 2 phases, what we call the map phase, so building the Minecraft map that you're standing in, and then the SMP phase, where we invite members of the public to come and play in our world. So what I'm going to do now is we'll start walking, and I'll talk a little bit about the build phase. And let's turn it to day. Thank you. So you're standing here on a full regular size Minecraft map. So that's, if you've played Minecraft, you know there's thousands and thousands and thousands of blocks. So the world is huge. In video game terms, Minecraft worlds are absolutely some of the biggest you can possibly play in. Very hard to walk from one end of the map to the other. So the map is as large as any Minecraft world. So if you keep walking in any direction, you'll end up in a modded, again, pastoral type Minecraft world. But inside of that space, we are using a mod which is known as Lost Cities. And if you look around, you'll see all of these kind of office buildings. And Lost Cities does this procedural generation of these sort of very bland kind of office structures. And this is what we use for our de facto London. So we're on the edge of the area of London known as Millmeads in East London. So if any of you have been to London, or you were in Stratford where the Olympic Park is, if you just go south of there on the River Lee is this area called Millmeads, and this is what we've reproduced in Minecraft. So around the outskirts is our Lost Cities London, and then as you walk across the bridge, you come into a map which we drew off from the topographical maps and then recreated inside of Minecraft. So if you'll follow me across the bridge, this is the walking tour part. You'll enter into the area of Mill Meads, which is still preserved today. So this is a kind of Victorian period buildings. The one on your left is a replica of the old tidal mill, which is still there. I went on a tour of it in just last month, actually, when I finally got to go to London to see the site. You know, the tidal mill was connected to a gin distillery. A lot of it was bombed during the war, but then you have these buildings that are left over, so it's still a real historic site that you can go and visit. So we reproduce these buildings to help set the scene. Now, when we made the map in the first place, if you know anything about Minecraft building, so you know that most YouTubes or live streams of Minecraft building happen in creative mode. So that's what you're in now. In creative mode, if you press the E button, the E key, you'll see all the blocks that you can possibly build with appear magically right beside you. So it's basically like picking your palette and composing. You can compose that way. You can fly around. You're not, in essence, playing Minecraft. You're playing the building version of it. But we don't actually build our maps that way. So one of the things, the reasons why we use Minecraft is as a way of thinking through conceptual ideas through play. So even before the public comes to play our game, we are actually playing the game. And so the map is built by playing, which means that while we're building all of these in survival mode, we have to fight off the mobs and deal with time passage and also make all the blocks for building the structures that you see around here. So all the bricks are made from clay, and all the metal is composed of iron ingots and so on and so forth. So originally, when we built it, we built all of our materials factories inside of these buildings. And then stupidly, I didn't leave them here. We erased them when we went public because we thought the public would want to build their own. And in the end, they didn't. But if you come into this building on the right here, marked the clock mill, you'll see the remnants of some of these material manufacturing. So inside here is basically an iron factory. This will create iron ingots by using a kind of structure that's up above in the ceiling, and it's not working right now, but you get a sense. And if you walk into this next building over here,
So this factory was built in order also to build the map.
yeah. So the facade of the factory is what's actually there if you go and visit, and inside what we did was we made our factories for making the materials to make the fun palace. So here's some more machines in here.
And this process was during 60 days, right? That's the...
No. So this is before that
okay,
even happened. So this is us just building the map for about 3 months.
prepping.
So we had to build everything from scratch.
During survival.
And we're playing. So we're in survival mode and we're playing. We're going and fighting the Ender Dragon. We're going exploring. We're basically playing. So this is just the if you like, the curatorial team playing the research.
How many of you were?
Let's see. Our team maxed out at maybe 8, and all working on different parts of the map at different times. Students and faculty. And what you'll see here, just to complete the story of the map, is you'll see we've moved from sort of the older buildings in the back to a slightly newer structures. There's still Victorian facade, but right now in Mill Meads, all these buildings are occupied by a film studio. So what we decided to do was basically recreate the film studio. Okay. So all of these buildings are now used as film studio buildings, and so we kept those and used those. So we mashed the time periods together, again, to give some contexts for the play. Put in parking lots, and over to my right is Mill Meads Green, which still exists. It's a giant park area where there's concerts and stuff like that. And so we had that as well. And then as we keep walking, you start to see the structure come into view. And this is based on the archival materials in relative terms, pretty much how the Fun Palace would have looked, we believe, would it have been built in the place that they wanted to build it. The scale isn't exact, so it's not a simulation in the same way that an architectural model is meant to be a simulation. But it's relatively accurate. That is, in Minecraft terms, we translated the scale from the drawings into Minecraft scale, where one block is about 1 meter, 1 by 1 meters, 1 by 1 by 1, and built it as we thought that the architects would have imagined it. And we were absolutely blown away by the size. So we've never built anything this big. So when we launched into the project, we had no idea. And you have to remember, we're building in survival, which means we have to make all of these steel girders by hand or by machine. We make machines that make the girders. And it was enough to just make 3 or 4 of them. Took us a long time, but there's 100 or so, I can't, 120 or something of these large pillars with all the pieces. So it was taking a huge amount of time. And one of the benefits of doing the research that way is getting some insight into the sort of material process by which these sort of architectural imaginations would have been implemented, right? So it's one thing to be able to use CAD/CAM and just draw a picture of a building. It's another thing to engage in the material act of trying to make it, not because that's how it exactly would have been, but because you're understanding a little bit about the process of putting these things together in a material fabrication kind of way. So it's key to our method, which is not so much simulation, but much more allegorical. So the way in which we compose the structure is an allegory of the way we imagine the structure being composed in reality. So, with that said, we can enter the Fun Palace.
Yes.
So I recommend walking it first so you get a sense of the scale. And if everybody just sort of walks through and looks around, I have a little ride we can do together, which will look good on video too, at the other end. So just walk through from one end to the other at your leisure and look around. And I'll talk a little bit about the next phase of the project. So in the second phase, I was telling you we built the map. So the map was the raw, everything around the Fun Palace plus the structure, just the scaffolding itself, the pillars and the sort of semi-roof. Everything else was built during the SMP itself, so the 60 days. So what we did was, and this is our ambition, is to sort of think of ways of playing Minecraft differently. So how can we imagine sort of appealing or talking about the millions upon millions of Minecraft players and then say, well, could we do other kinds of Minecraft game experiences than the ones that players are normally used to? So we kind of tentatively call this Art House SMP. So the idea was to create the Discord, to create the structure, and inside of the Discord, we start putting all of the historical materials that might be relevant or interesting, not so much because we're teaching players about the historical Fun Palace, but to get them in the mood, to give a kind of vibe for that kind of avant-garde 60s era for art and culture, as well as a sort of the general idea around the Fun Palace without telling people what to do. So the only guidance after that we had for people, because otherwise what you're doing is you're playing an SMP. If you've played SMPs before, you come on the game, you make your base, you knock down some trees, and you start building up from there. The only layer we added on top of this was this really cool thing we found in the archive. So because the Fun Palace was never built, nobody actually knew what was supposed to happen inside the Fun Palace. And the only clue we really had was a small document in the archive, which had a list, I think, of 70 activities that a committee had compiled. And the 70 activities had all these crazy, they were just titles, right? Take a sleigh ride down a snowy mountain. What was that? What were some of the others? I can't even remember all the different ones. We should dig out some.
Activities.
Yeah. So what we did was we just said, okay, each player take a title and make what you think the title might be. So it was kind of like a game designer's like dream come true. So we had the archival document with a list of titles, but nobody knew what they were. So we just said, okay, interpret these things. And this is what you see around you now. So various people's interpretations of the titles that they found. And so it's chaotic, it's ragtag, people just built wherever they felt. One of the things we discovered right away, which a lot of players already know, is how difficult it is to build in 3 dimensions. So you're often thinking in 2 dimensions, like close to the ground. But if you look at the size of the Fun Palace, it was imagined as a volume, not as a 2-dimensional space. So really making use of the vertical space was quite something, and a bit of a trick. All right, so to give you a bit of vantage, let's see if we can do this. I wonder if we can. So everybody come to the other end of the Fun Palace, where I have a waiting monorail.
I was trying the chess. Let's see where everyone is. I see Angelica.
You made my day for trying my mod.
Hey.
Yeah, the chess mod is by Stuart. I believe it is the most popular chess mod of all the chess mods. Everybody's still looking around. You have to make your way to the other end.
Where again? Where are we supposed to meet?
At the far end, so the opposite
far
end from where we started.
Okay. Since Night Play This is a familiar event, I am now playing with Gael, my son, who's 10 and who is a big fan of Minecraft, and he is controlling. Now let's see. There is everyone.
So I wonder if there's enough seats.
Oh,
So-
not to be go.
You need to come on board the monorail and sit in one of the seats, or when we go, you'll fall out.
Okay.
And let me know when everybody's in. Oh. So one of the things about the Fun Palace that we really wanted to explore in Minecraft is the fact that it was touted as being going to be one of the early experiments in cybernetic architecture, adaptive architecture.
Mm-hmm.
So with Gordon Pask on the team, you had somebody designing all these feedback systems so that walls would move, and there would be different kinds of dynamic elements to the structure which would respond to the needs and the feedback of the people that were there. And of course, if you're thinking about this in terms of regular contemporary architecture, there's not much you can do to model or think about adaptive architecture in CAD or building models. But Minecraft, especially modern Minecraft, is amazing for doing dynamic things.
Mm-hmm.
So
There we go.
we can make a real monorail.
I love it.
And the reference to monorails, of course, is very 60s.
Yeah.
And even in the original archival document, there was talk of a monorail, because even in London had projected building a monorail at one point in the 60s. So they imagined a monorail coming and bringing people to the Fun Palace, as well as a bunch of other ways to get there. Where the monorail is really prevalent is at Expo 67 in Montreal. So that's where this one really comes from. So in Expo 67, when you come to the site, it was the monorail that brings you, if you like, over the site and gives you the whole kind of view of the thing. So this monorail I built as a kind of reference to that. And it's all about changing perspective. So the sense of getting a capturing of the volume of space as things grow around it. So it's just another interesting way or to think about moving through the space and how different ways of moving through the space give you different perceptions of that space, even when you're in Minecraft. Right, so this notion of being in a virtual world, but experiencing, it's not just any old virtual world. It's like if you're flying, if you're walking, if you're in a monorail, if you're in a minecart, if you're running on ice, the experience of that world is very, very different.
Also feels like a very theme park thing to have this monorail.
Yeah. It does feel very theme parky, I think, in part because when we so here's the story of the players. So we discovered it's very hard, even though there are millions of Minecraft players, even millions of modded Minecraft players. We didn't attract millions of people to our SMP. It was very hard to get players to play, and we even tried our little marketing campaign and stuff like that to get players. So we really, into the Discord, I think we must have had a maximum of about 50 people on the Discord, which is pretty good. We were pretty happy with it. And then maybe of the people who came on the Discord, maybe at the beginning, we were lucky to have about 30 players playing, a lot of students, but also some others. But the real world issues of playing modded Minecraft on a mod pack like this is that a lot of people can't log in. It's kind of difficult. It's a little broken. And so we lost more players. So by the time we were kind of done in the heart of the SMP period, it was only like a dozen or so players, which means that we couldn't ultimately fill the Fun Palace like we originally dreamed. So it looks still, to me, a little bit empty, like it's an unfinished project. Which was kind of interesting because we could maybe run the SMP again and have more people come and sort of keep filling it up. Would be an interesting project. But also the sense in which the sort of ragtagness of it and the theme parkness of it, I think, comes from the sort of letting players do what they want and sort of there's no governance model. There's simply players getting together in the space and sort of deciding what they want to do, with, again, the only guidance being that list of activities. So
I remember when I first heard about this project and I connected to the server and I was really interested in doing, but then I got afraid because it was the survival mode and it was about trying to recreate this, and in the end I never really got to try it until now. I know, but if you do a second chapter, I think I will try.
Absolutely. So this is an important part, right? So coming on and playing in survival like a real SMP is part of the appeal, but also I think part of what makes people nervous to just try and play. So this is important. There's not a single protected block in the server. Everything is destructible. You can put holes in the floors. And part of the question is sort of like, well, what does that mean, right? How do players work with one another and find ways of collaborating and cooperating in a world which is destructible like this? And that's a little bit of the ethos of the Fun Palace itself, at least as far as Joan Littlewood was concerned. She imagined a public space which would not be orderly and consumer friendly, but actually full of friction, fights, all sorts of different kinds of people, and that the structure that Cedric Price was imagining would have to deal with that, right? Would have to deal with this kind of like adaptable, changeable notion of a public, a kind of living public, not a consumer moderated public. So for Joan, this was very much an anti-Disney World, Disneyland kind of venture. That was meant to be a little bit messy, a little bit rough, a little bit broken, at least as far as her writing about it was concerned. And so we actually like that for modded Minecraft, because that's very much how the modded Minecraft community plays. The mods don't always work with one another. It's kind of glitchy, but you know what? It works just enough, right? So we wanted to capture that just enough, and the sort of feeling that players could have of really enjoying, like, not the smooth consumer video game experience, but a kind of experience that their own efforts would help to create. And so that's part of what we're trying to capture. And of course, we have the ability to back up our worlds and restore them if, you know, somebody decides they want to burn the whole place down, which could happen. I mean, it could happen. What else can I show you? So some of the builds, Gina built this lovely little, we wanted a gallery of sorts inside of the Fun Palace. So this thing, these blocks here that I'm standing on, these are Angelica had designed them. These are our plastic blocks. So we call them the inflatables, because during the 60s, there was a craze for inflatable structures.
Which is coming back now.
Yeah, like bouncy castles, basically. And so we created these blocks, these 1960s blocks for inflatables. And then we were going to have a gallery of sort of archival materials, but in the end, we made it a photo gallery of the Fun Palace itself. And so we're thinking about different ways of presenting the historical material. Oops, I fell through the floor. Oh, Angelica, what about your rotating room?
Oh, I want to see that.
We can go to the rotating room at any point in time. We'll make our way there for sure.
Take off.
There's also Gina's origami situation right here, which is beautiful.
Yeah, I forgot the name of the activity of the origami.
Oh, I posted in the chat. It's called Try Your Hand at Japanese Paper Folding.
The giant origami
right next to you
sculpture, which you can walk through.
Yes. Just facing the gallery that we were in.
So anybody who hasn't discovered it yet, if you press the space bar twice, you'll fly and you can move around the Fun Palace that way.
We'll go and hang out by the crank next to the rotating room. So when you eventually make it over here.
Okay, let's find.
So the rotating room is a large white tubular structure about midway in the Fun Palace with sort of escalators going up to it.
And that activity was called the Deceiving Corridor. So you'll get a sense of why.
You can ride the escalators if you like.
No. How difficult was to access the archives, the original information in order to build this?
It's publicly available, so you have to make appointments. And in the end, what we did was we turned it into a university class, which is another great experiment that we did. So we had a bunch of the team and my colleague Darren Werchler and I basically did a course to like work in this archive. We had the best time. It was so much fun.
And you're working now, Gina is working on a documentary, right? You were telling me last time.
That's right, yeah. So, I mean, you can tell already how visual this experience is. So it really lends itself to a kind of visual argument, which is what Gina is working on. So what else? The other big structure in here is the thing I built. This is the aviary. So there's a large glass structure kind of towards the end that we started at. And inside that structure, so Cedric Price, the one thing kind of that he built that everybody kind of remembers, but sort of, is the aviary at the London Zoo was his. It no longer is there. They've replaced it. But the original aviary was a Cedric Price design. And so I stupidly tried to do a version of his aviary. Doesn't really work that well in Minecraft because there are way too many angles. But it looks very good with mods. So, yes, the idea of creating a world within a world, essentially. But if you find an entrance to the aviary, you can see sort of all the mods at work. So in this case, a lot of birds and... And if you turn on your sound, it's quite nice.
I went into another portal by mistake. I love it. This is really a living project, and it captures the spirit of the original one perfectly.
And it turned out, so, you know, one of the things about having the players here, so they were building their own things, and it turned out that the one thing that brought everybody together seemed to be the weekly Jeopardy games. So we would get together and have like trivia about 1960s trivia contests, and everybody would come and play that. And that became part of the community of the server. So in addition to the sort of, imagine 60 days, I mean, it's kind of durational, a kind of trying to do a kind of nod towards kind of durational theater, and where everybody has a commitment which lasts over a period of time. And this is something we were just sort of messing with that I really would like to experiment with more. But that kind of curatorial experiment, which has people playing a game over together in an artistic context for a longer period of time. Because if you think about a lot of video games, that's where they really start to hit you, is kind of in between the sessions in which you play, right? So when you think about most arcades, and Now Play This is a good one, you go for a kind of quick hit. You're there for an afternoon, you're there for a day, you try a bunch of different things. But to actually spend a long time with a game with other people, that's where online games are great, but there are far fewer experiments in sort of durational performance in that sense that I think is very interesting to think about.
We're all wandering around. Is there any question in the group that want to share? We have 15 more minutes. Also, people that is watching live, if you want to ask anything, now it's the moment.
Yes, of course. Any question.
I would like to ask something. It's about the building. Well, I have a lot of questions. This is amazing, to be honest. Let me say to you, to all the team, congrats, because this is amazing. And I'm curious about how you built it. If you use some engineering, Minecraft engineering strategies, or I don't know. I've seen like really crazy things like farms, like iron farms and things like this. And
Yes.
I don't know if you are on that way, no?
Yes. So it's impossible to do if you were to try to hand mine all of the materials by hand. It would take years. So what mods are particularly famous for is automating the production of resources in Minecraft. So while there's all sorts of vanilla farms, they're even more efficient and more productive when you use mods, and that's part of what it is to play mods. And so you're creating all this equipment. So one of the key mods for our structure here is the Create mod, which is super famous now. It's transformed the way Minecraft works, but it's basically a kind of steampunkish kind of factory style of mod. So like, for instance, the monorail you were riding on is based on Create. The iron farms and things like that are based off of Create. So we can manufacture steel. Once we get it running, it takes a long time to build those things in survival, but once they're running, we can produce all of the materials that we need. Then there's the actual physical building. So there's some tricks that we can use within the game itself. And to be perfectly honest, sometimes you're really tired and you can't handle it anymore. So you switch to creative mode and do a little building that way. So cheating in that sense is actually part of the game, right? Like, when is it too much? I can't handle
Yeah,
the creeper blowing up every 2 seconds. So you'll see
I had
also one of the mods that we have is so you can go up to any of the mobs inside of the Fun Palace. They won't attack you. So outside the Fun Palace, it's the real Minecraft world.
nice.
You have to survive. Inside, the mobs are all passive. So unless you hit them, they will leave you alone. And of course, so we wanted to create this sense of you're in creative, so they're not going to hurt you. But
That's
if
nice.
you were in survival, they would only attack you if you hit them first.
I had another question about this thing about survival and so on, because, well, the question is how many people are we? I mean, we are this first group, or this is going to become bigger, no? As I've been in some servers in Minecraft. I mean, these online servers, like there are like anarchist servers, or servers really curated, no, like with games and so on. And sometimes when it becomes massive, well, internet, it's a kind of chaos. And I'm
Yes.
kind of scared of that.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted that experience, right? That's what we dream of. That's in part to wonder. You know, one of the things we have to wonder is, you know, as a social experiment, would the Fun Palace have worked, or would it have been a total disaster like an anarchist server is, right? Or would the way in which we frame these servers make a difference to how large groups would carry on together, right? So, you know, is it the structure of the game which provokes kind of this kind of weird behaviors in these large servers where people sort of start treating each other badly and toxicity starts to reign, or can you conceive of a kind of different kind of structure? So part of this experiment, of course, was not just building the Fun Palace, so giving a group like an object to collectively imagine and build together, but also as much as possible to do a kind of public education where we're like trying to, without teaching them, to let players in on what Joan Littlewood was thinking. For a little while, Stuart made us this great Joan Littlewood AI. She became way too annoying, but the idea was just to have the presence of Joan Littlewood there in the game. So she was just in the chat, and she would say, we trained her a little bit on some of the Joan Littlewood's writing, and so she had a kind of Joanish personality. But the idea was to sort of like come close to the history without actually trying to reproduce the history. And would that change the way players play? Would it change the kinds of decisions that they would make about what is interesting to do in a game? So for sure, you know, the larger the player base, the more I'm sure that bits and pieces of this world would like start coming apart. But that's precisely what we would have loved to test.
Well, it's quite interesting, to be honest. It's quite interesting. Thank you for having me
Yeah.
here.
Well, you're more than welcome. It's wonderful that you're here.
And in which stage?
Did everyone get a chance?
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, if people haven't had a chance to see the musical cloister, it's quite beautiful. Kind of a restful space. This is one of our participants who built it. It's where I am, so I'm just gonna hop up.
While we go there, and while I reconnect, because I wanted to add, everything was working bad today, but it's typical when we're doing a technological thing. In which stage is now the project? What are the next steps? What are your intentions to do now?
So now we are in the write-up phase. So we're sort of presenting the work and sort of getting feedback, thinking about the experience of what we did. starting some new projects that sort of riff off of this one, but also wondering what might come next for this one. I think we haven't abandoned the value of thinking about doing kind of art house SMP. So we might rethink the structure of that and come back with this map. So the advantage is we have a map now and we have all the materials. So it would be nice to try something else with it. But right now, for now, we're just resting and doing some writing about it and presenting it, talking about it. And it was exhausting.
Dedicated to this was something that you have previously decided, or these 3 months and then 60 days? How did you come up with that?
Yeah, it was a good question. I don't know exactly how I settled on 60 days. I think I have set it at 64 days for 1964, but we were trying to decide what is a reasonable spread of time to get past what we call the early game in modern Minecraft. So, you know, there's a sort of intense period at the beginning where you play the basics and then you're ready to do other things. So we needed players to sort of get through that and have enough time to imagine projects inside of the Fun Palace structure. So for some reason we settled on 60 days. We have to think again if that's the right number. I think it's a bit arbitrary. Maybe it was too long. Maybe not, actually, because the pressure in some games, there's a lot of pressure to play, and we didn't want people to feel that. We didn't want people to feel like they had to be online all the time. It would be okay if you just hop on one evening a week, or just come for the community events, or something along those lines. So it has to be a period of time where people can remain committed but not be forced, you know? So it's a tricky number to get right.
And the Discord was, how did you find this Discord working with that experience? For me, I mean, watching from the outside, all these activities that you had, the different channels, seemed like it worked really well.
Yeah. I mean, I love Discord. I think it's key. And it's perfect for doing Minecraft projects because that's the state of the art. Every player who's a Minecraft player kind of knows Discord, knows how to use it. Doesn't get flustered by it, because some people it can be very difficult to navigate. So, and we had one person, Derek, who was really managing the Discord and keeping things sorted and stuff like that. So it really made a difference. So a good Discord for almost any game project is like critical, I think.
That's good. Was there any activity that was the preferred one, the top, the head?
So the one that we write about, if you fly up all the way to the other end of the Fun Palace, you will see in the sky a UFO.
Yeah, that's right. We saw that. Yes. Is everyone flying? Has spotted it?
So it's above this gorgeous Victorian building that was produced by Gina. So this is a Victorian pump house that still exists. It's there. They call it the Poo Palace. And so these Victorian pump houses were really sumptuous and gorgeous. So Gina reproduced this. But another player, a guy who wasn't a student and really got into the spirit of what we were trying to do, he built this UFO. And the UFO moves using Create. So you have to kind of go inside to see all of you can go ahead and punch your way in if you like. But if you go inside, you'll see all of these mechanics. And so the way it moves is it kind of moves itself over one block at a time. So every block in the flying saucer moves one block over. And so it kind of decomposes and recomposes itself. And so basically, as it's moving, if you try standing in it, you'll just fall into the air, because when it decomposes, it doesn't exist, and then it recomposes and exists again. Anyway, everybody had the best time with this thing. And it is a perfect example for us of this sort of emergent play that comes out of this. Has nothing to do with the Fun Palace. It's not even inside of the Fun Palace. This player built this incredible base thousands of blocks away with all sorts of cool stuff in it. And of course, part of the argument that we're making is it's not it's Minecraft itself is the fun palace, so you don't have to be in the fun palace that we built. Minecraft is the fun palace. So anywhere in the world where you're making stuff, it's about the fun palace at the same time. So this experience of a player building something for everybody else to enjoy and play with, and then everybody coming around and sort of gathering and having just the most hilarious evening I think we spent together playing with this thing was certainly the most memorable, I think.
This is awesome.
Hey Bart, are
Yep.
you in the build team? I mean the builders here. Are you all going to play?
Yeah, of course.
Nice,
No,
nice.
that's key.
Yeah,
I
please.
built the
We need
I built
engineers
the
like
I built the aviary. I think
Okay.
Angelica built the what did you built the spinny room? What do you call it?
I built
the
the spinny
tunnel.
room, yeah, and of course the
Nice.
the deceiving corridor, but also of course environmentals, right? We played our way into building this whole map out and stuff, and playing is the whole core. It's the whole. I feel like it's the whole point, you know.
Yeah, so that's a really important part about in terms of how we do research is we try to play as research, So in fact, we were. I think that was part of the problem is that we kind of were played out when we built the map, and then we had to play again when we started the SMP. So it was a different kind of experience, but we absolutely play everything that we do.
Nice.
In this.
Nice. No, well, I'm seeing. I'm looking at the motor, the OVNI motor, and too much pressure. Like 60 days is not enough. I have to do this, obviously. No, well, I mean, about the last question about the timing, and so on. How long could it be, and so on. But for me, I think 60 days it's fine. Like it could be something like really similar to vacations, no? Like
Yeah.
some holidays in another place. And I would like to be honest, like enjoy and see and explore more than create like big. I mean, if there's not the way of the group, I mean, I won't be the people who is going to pressure. I mean, this game is amazing, and this place is also amazing. If we build something at least nice, for me it's like perfect. I mean, I think here it's more about to be together, no, and talk and so on, than other things. And this is another question that I have, and I'll be quiet, promise, to let the other people. It's about a mod, like for chatting, no, like audio chatting, voice chatting here inside Minecraft. Do you have it here? Have you?
Yeah, well, so we use voice. We tried it. It's Discord
Uh-huh.
is better. So in fact, we usually just have the Discord voice running. Most players do it that way. There is
Yeah.
proximity chat inside of Minecraft, but it's not very good, and it glitches the server. So we do a couple of things that are super interesting. One is voice chat in the Discord, and the other thing is to link the text chat in Minecraft to the Discord, so that players in the game can be watched by players outside of the game.
Yeah.
So if people are there, you can kind of vicariously enjoy what they're doing, even when you can't play. Because whatever's happening in text and seeing the achievements and what people are doing or participating in chat, you can do even when you're not in the Minecraft world. So it helps to bind the community together and really make people feel like they belong together. So whether they're in the world or outside of the world, the Discord helps to knit that stuff together. For sure.
Okay. Now, yes, I find this voice chat like kind of funny sometimes, no? When you are walking around there and you listen, help, no? You're not on the Discord, no? But suddenly, oh, whoa, okay, where are you, no? And kind of, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, Carlos. Anyone else has a last question?
I have a question about the creative process, about the building the whole building a thing in the map. How do you know what's the next to build?
Oh, we don't. I mean, I think that's the. I mean, I think doing this as a team was absolutely crucial. So this idea of moving between the historical archive and the map, back and forth, iterating, constantly iterating. So we have reference images and things to work with, but we're also going between sort of like, okay, what is the history telling us and what is possible inside of Minecraft? And so there's a lot of testing of palettes and sort of processes and talking with one another. Some people are more skilled at doing different things. Like there's actual skills in Minecraft for making stuff. So if you want to save time, you don't try to do it yourself. You go to the person who knows how to work that machine or do that thing and so on and so forth. So, I mean, this is the first time of something of this scale where really the creative process was 100% collaborative. And people would have ideas for what to add. And obviously the map kind of accommodates that. So we have the structure of the map itself and a sort of loose idea of where things might go. And then after that, people are just kind of tinkering away. One of the things Angelica built early on, if you go to the east side of the Fun Palace, is a series of council flats that we think would have been there historically. But Angelica had a lot of fun trying to kind of reproduce the spirit of 1960s council flats that would be there, where we put villagers essentially. So we had Minecraft villagers before they all got killed by zombies, but they were there. And so little details like that, different people could add. Again, because we're playing, we all have to share the same vibe, right? So we are like sharing 60s music and films and references and things like that. That's part of the creative process to sort of, if not capture directly, at least keep the mood so that the whole team is sort of working in one kind of narrative space.
Okay. And you know, there is any Easter egg you can show us? I
This
might
will
be
be the final thing. We're on time, so this is a
Oh,
good
okay.
a secret to unveil now.
I don't have any super. I mean, there isn't. There is I mean, you're free to come pretty much anytime and explore. So that's the other thing about these projects, right? Is everything is public and shareable. So the mod pack's on CurseForge, the map is on CurseForge. So you can actually do your own version of this and keep going. Then we have our server that we invite people to. So underneath all this is a fully working tube setup, London Tube. So it's a subway.
I threw some carts. I realized that there were no mine carts, but you can take this ride if you'd like.
If you go into some of the subway stations, you can go ride underneath the Fun Palace is a working subway system, which I think is very cool.
It has sculptures and pictures framing. I was walking around.
Yeah. So there's tidbits all over the place. I can't, to the life of me, I can't remember all of the things that are still left. The big sphere that's in the middle of the green is a remnants of a project I was working on to recreate Joan Littlewood's idea for a theater inside of the Fun Palace. And so that sphere isn't working anymore, but I had worked it out so that it will collapse into a single block and then like suddenly appear. So it could be a collapsible giant theater. So there's a whole bunch of projects we've been working on that after the 60 days ended, we never finished, that we might pick up again. Retractable.
People come now and join and keep on constructing building.
I think if people want to, I mean, there's nothing organized, but if any of you want to explore a bit more, and you should just drop me a line. I think I'd be more than happy for you to do that. We have nothing organized anymore around this map, but we're leaving the server up because for tours like this or looking around and taking pictures and doing the videography that we're doing. So people are from this group, if you're really interested, absolutely, you can mess around a bit more. But then hopefully, I think if there's interest in the next, I don't know, sometime next year, we might reopen an SMP again, just for fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Barton and
You're
Cedric,
welcome.
for this tour, and thank you all the rest for joining. And thanks,
This is awesome.
Joe, for being the camera, and Nick also being backstage, controlling everything and the chat and all. This is been really amazing and fun. And let us know if there is a second chapter coming soon.
Absolutely.
We'll be sharing also the Discord and all the text with the people that is watching now, and the video will be uploaded on the No Play This channel. So hopefully this will be also a way to get people excited again and keep the discussion going.
Fantastic.
Then this is it. Everyone, thank you for joining today for this live tour, and see you the rest tomorrow for the opening and the launching of the game design labs. And have a nice night or day, depending on the time zones. And
Thank you so
any
much.
final words, Bart or Angelica? Any final thing that you want to add regarding the project?
Not at all. Thank you all for coming. And absolutely, if anybody has any questions, you can ping me on the Discord or drop me a line. We'd love to talk to you about it. It's been a fantastic experience trying to show you around.
Then Joe, this is it. You turn off now the streaming.